The Trump administration claims that by pausing military aid to Ukraine and by stopping intelligence sharing with Kyiv, America is facilitating the peace process. But from this article in today's Moskovsky Komsomolets, it seems that Russia views US pressure on Ukraine as a golden opportunity to make gains on the battlefield. Ukrainian troops have been left without intelligence on the eve of a major spring-summer campaign. The Ukrainian army, deprived of US military equipment and American intelligence, will soon have a nasty surprise. Analysts believe the Russian army may launch a large spring-summer offensive. It will require a massive effort by Ukraine to discover the details. A Russian military analyst tells the paper, many analysts are sure that Russia is preparing big reserve forces, large units that will 100% advance in the spring-summer period. Right now it's the muddy season, but when the ground dries, we'll move. In the past, the enemy always discovered our plans beforehand. It was very difficult for us to conceal the movements of large troop formations. NATO saw everything with their satellites and transmitted all the information to the Ukrainian army by radio-technical means. Now we have a higher chance of finding the enemy's weak spot and striking when they're not expecting it. Today's Russian papers clearly show how now Moscow views America as the good guys and Europe as the troublemakers. In its reporting of yesterday's EU summit, the government paper Rossiyska Gazeta declares in Brussels the summit participants undermined America's peace initiatives. While Trump is demanding a swift end to the Ukraine conflict, the Europeans and the Brits standing behind them are trying to come up with ways to continue pouring oil on the fire in Ukraine. Another very pro-Kremlin paper, Izvestia, claims that Britain is once again trying to derail the peace process in Ukraine. And let me introduce you to one of Moscow's favourite anti-British sayings that you often hear Russian officials and pro-Kremlin commentators use. It's quoted here by a Russian professor. The Englishwoman always causes a mess. This saying dates back to the 19th century and still applies today. By contrast, there is praise here for America's pragmatism. What's more, today's edition of the business paper RBK reports the head of the American Chamber of Commerce in Russia, Robert Agee, is preparing a white paper for the US authorities with proposals for removing sanctions. Mr. Agee tells the paper, first of all, we're asking for sanctions to be removed in the aviation sector. This relates to spare parts and technical support for aircraft. Secondly, we're proposing removing the ban on American companies investing in Russia. The third part involves removing sanctions on Russian banks. The fourth part, removing restrictions on the supply of luxury goods, including cosmetics.